Did it make a lot of sense? Like,
none at all, really. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about mental health or like the spectrum or anything. So to me, it was kind of just a title.
Hey, it's Greg. Welcome back. Make sure to like our Facebook page and Instagram to get some memes and stay up to date. Enjoy the episode.
hey guys, welcome back for another episode of the Couch Project. Today we're joined by the normal boys, Ethan, Kai, Tom, and Lachlan. And today we have a special guest, Jared. Welcome, Jared.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Definitely a pleasure.
It's going to be good fun.
Today, this episode, we're going to be talking about what it's like to live with ADHD. And that's why we brought on Jared, because he has been diagnosed with ADHD.
Sure have.
We also have Kai, who is undiagnosed with ADHD.
Yes, allegedly.
And Tom.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about, because not everyone understands what it's like to live with ADHD, and I just think the awareness of it's quite low. So I thought the boys could have a chat about it and raise some awareness.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, we're going to start off with some would you rathers or icebreakers. The boys call
it's
it.
icebreakers.
Yeah.
Don't ever say that shit again.
Mate, if we have another question like mine, it's not a would you rather, it's a question.
Do you know what? I want the listeners to send in a question eventually.
Well, there you go.
So if you're a listener right now, send in a question that you want us to talk about, or
In icebreakers. During icebreakers.
in icebreakers. Sorry.
All right. So
Yes.
I've got
Who's
icebreakers
got
this
an
week.
icebreaker?
So boys, I would like you to name a food that is usually hot that you would never ever eat cold. For example, my one would be a meat pie. I would never eat a cold meat pie. That shit is disgusting.
I'll tell you, Lachlan, I've got an issue with how I work because I eat that much food on my plate that I'll cook up a lot of food, and then by the end of it, usually a little bit of what's left is cold, but I'll eat it anyway
Okay.
because it's on my plate and it's illegal to not.
Okay.
Just go microwave it, no?
That's an extra trip that I don't have to take.
Yes, but is there anything
Give
specific that you won't
Couple
eat?
of seconds.
Anything at all?
Hot food that I will not eat cold.
Pizza.
You won't eat cold pizza.
Cold.
I like
Really?
cold pizza.
Pizza.
A lot of people like that shit.
I mean,
Anyone
when
else got a particular food?
Pasta. Pasta.
Yeah, cold pasta.
Cold pasta's kind of gross.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
soggy and shit. No.
I mean, I'd just rather not eat most foods, but if it's down to I
cold
will
potato
not eat
bake.
it. It's kind of hard.
No,
I don't like it.
cold potato bake hit because it's kind of like potato salad.
Ooh.
No, I don't
But
like
it has
it.
like bacon.
I'm gonna
and
be
shit.
honest, potato bake just sucks ass.
Oh, that's a spicy
you
cake.
can, no, you can go suck a...
A nice lollipop.
Dude, it's
Like-
not.
like-
It's an Australian thing.
Guys, we're a self-help
It's
podcast,
I'm
and we
literally fucking dude.
beating down this
It's-
poor...
it's-
Potato bake
Okay, all things
is orgasmic.
aside, Tom, is there any food for you?
No, can you talk to us?
I'm
why
gonna
you
be
don't like
honest.
potato bake?
I actually don't. I can't eat the majority of food cold unless it's like originally served cold. So like pasta,
All food. All
I
hot
fucking
food.
hate pasta. Like when it's cold, I
You
hate
better
cold
not just
pasta.
I like pasta salad. I don't mind pasta salad.
Cold pasta to me,
I don't
it
like
just
pasta
shouldn't
salad.
be cold, like at all. Like it just doesn't.
No, it should
What about hot
permanently be
chips?
hot, mate.
Hot chips, yeah.
Cold
yeah,
Macca's
cold-
fries are
cold
gross
chips.
as
No.
Dude, cold Macca's fries do be hitting differently.
for a week.
Don't you ever find that like spare fry from like a few months back?
Absolutely not.
And
Yeah,
you're like,
Nibble on it.
Alright, anyway, so question number 2. If you could brainwash the public into thinking a new flavour of ice cream was good, what flavour would you force everyone to like?
Shit.
Shit.
Gravy.
It's shit.
I would actually just
Right.
No,
shit
That's
in
not a
pint.
flavour of ice cream.
Dude, I'm
gravy flavoured ice cream.
and I'm the dispenser,
That's-
motherfucker.
No, I've got
Okay.
a reason because I have a lot of people like I look. A few people might know this about me. I cannot get enough gravy. Tom definitely knows it,
Yeah.
and Tom's wrong because Tom thinks that if you need sauce on a meal, then the meal's not good enough. But he doesn't understand the fact that it's an addition and it makes it better. Tom's dumb, in other
I
words.
agree with that.
Tom,
But gravy is so good, and I have said that I will eat gravy on or with anything, whether it be ice cream, apples, banana. Like it doesn't matter. I will eat
ice
gravies.
cream.
Yeah, I would eat gravy on ice cream. I
Have
would
you
enjoy
done it before?
I haven't, but if you
would
want
like
to give
to
me
see
the
that one
opportunity,
day.
if
Yeah.
you want to give me the opportunity, I will do it and I'll enjoy it because gravy I will drink, and I have just drunk gravy before.
But would it be hot gravy on cold ice cream? So like you would end up just
What, you
melting.
don't
I mean, it
hot
would
ice
start.
cream?
It would
You
start.
You
don't
could
have
have hot
hot
ice cream, mate.
fucking
You could just
idiot.
have it melted in the bottom of your bowl.
Mate,
can
get
have-
deep fried ice cream.
Ice cream.
Deep fried ice cream, yeah.
It's
I
still,
know
it's
what's
still,
going on.
Alrighty, so we've got gravy flavoured. Anyone else?
I just want everyone to agree with me, to be honest.
I'd choose like a shit flavor. So then when you go to like an ice creamery, that the good flavor.
Yeah,
Always
so-
there.
True.
Yeah, I'd choose like rum raisin or
Too
like
much thought into it, mate.
Celery.
I'd pick cabbage.
Why?
It's chat.
I'd pick cabbage.
Yeah, no, you can.
what cabbage. But
Cabbage flavoured ice cream.
Hits different.
That sounds.
you know what? You just choose a flavor and then you sell that flavor.
Wow.
This way, yeah,
Make
we
lots
could
of
turn
money.
this into a
Oh
marketing
my
scheme.
God.
So you just pick any. It doesn't matter what it is. You just.
I just wanted to know a f***ed up ice cream flavour. I didn't want to hear a marketing scheme. What the f***? The truth.
We're here to make
Yeah,
money.
true.
What are you on about? Okay, anyway, we're gonna get into it, boys. So, what is ADHD?
I don't
I've
know.
looked up a little bit of a
Can
Hey.
I have a guess to what I think it is? What it
Yeah,
what
go
it
for it.
stands for?
So even I struggle to say what ADHD
Addiction
stands for,
disorder.
Not even close.
Concentration Dynamo.
so. No, I respect that. I respect that. It's actually Alfredo, Dijon, halloumi, and
Dijon again. Just two
yeah,
Dijon.
you're up. The last, yeah, Dijon again. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Come on.
Dijon
That
mustard's
slips my
collie.
Can I have a guess? Oh, I'm pretty sure it's attention
I know what it
attention
is, you-
deficit hyperactive disorder.
Okay, someone's done
Yeah.
their research.
Yeah.
Someone's
Yeah, okay,
done their
maybe.
research.
But
it's a common neurodevelopmental disorder, of, like usually developed in childhood.
Can you be born
Um,
with ADHD?
I think you
That's
diagnose at a young age.
Usually,
Well, you can't
Yeah,
really
the
tell
one
if a
with the
baby has.
you just yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell.
You can be born with it. You can also be.
Like hereditary?
What's the word?
Develop
You can also develop it. Yes, correct. So
like from a vaccine. Like
Yeah.
oh, that's another episode. That
that's
one.
very political. No,
Yeah.
we're not getting there. Not today.
Gonna.
So you can develop at a young age. Jared, when were you first diagnosed?
Exact age, I'm not sure, but I would say I was pretty young. Definitely primary school. I would say probably 7 or 8. I think when I was first diagnosed, went to a good old, just a doctor of some sort that specializes in that kind of thing, and I did get diagnosed.
For sure. So it'd be a hard thing for a little kid to be diagnosed that young. Did it make a lot of sense? Like,
None at all, really. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about mental health or like the spectrum or anything. So to me, it was kind of just a title, a word.
yeah. It's hard to understand in a little age, I guess. Like when you're diagnosed at like 7.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so ADHD people, signs and symptoms. You struggle to sit still. It's mainly to do with focus.
Yeah, that's the big one that I still
You
struggle with.
Do you ever feel like undervalued? Do you feel like because you lose focus, you feel like you're not intelligent, or
I can get that vibe sometimes, but there's possibly a few reasons. Now that I'm older, it's not as prevalent as when I was younger. In terms of, I suppose, discrimination. A lot of people, when you're older, they understand, or I learn to control it a bit better. But being from a family, I've got a very, very smart sister, and that's not shots against her or anything. Like, she's just incredibly smart. So
you're smart, bro?
so kind of growing up against that could be tough in certain ways. And then when I was old enough to realize what I had and what it was, it definitely took a bit of a toll on my mental health in terms of just being self-deprecating and a bit negative towards intelligence and stuff.
It's quite common people with ADHD to self-deprecate because with ADHD, your mind. I was watching a video last night, an interview with someone with ADHD, and a good analogy was your mind is like the wind. Your thought patterns is like the wind. It can constantly changes, constantly. And there's other states of mind like water, fire, like a steady burn, one way. But yeah, ADHD is like the wind and constantly changing.
That's
Is there
pretty
any,
good,
like-
actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice analogy.
It is. Like, I 100% agree. I find that myself, personally, I know we got Jared on for the ADHD, but myself, personally, I don't think I've ever been diagnosed with anything like the ADHD, but Jared, who is diagnosed, does say that I have tendencies occasionally that I'm like, can't sit still or can't do this or can't do that. And I was having a chat with him yesterday, actually, just me and him, and we were talking about how, like, being like focusing on reading and focusing on anything really, like anything that takes a lot of brain power can really take a big detriment if there's anything more distracting that, or more fun that would be more of a stimulus. Like, video games are a huge stimulus for people with ADHD, or at least in Jared's case, from what I've realized. Like,
yeah. So with ADHD, you got to find something to keep your mind occupied because you need to have multiple things going at once, so you have a constant.
But it's a problem. It's a problem for
thought.
school and stuff, because when you have to focus and you can't be doing multiple things at once, like you can't be clicking your pen, you can't be tapping, you can't be anything.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's why they brought out fidget spinners. Yeah,
It's true.
What that is the thing. Yes, for fidgeting.
It's literally for people with ADHD because they find it like soothing and helps them concentrate.
And they're cool.
So they constantly fiddling with stuff.
They're cool. Yeah, I guess
They can
Fidget
actually.
spinners are cool.
Well, so it's a lot to do with focus.
I was gonna say.
And I just have another question for Jared. Were you medicated at a young age?
Yes, I took Ritalin, which is the main medication that everyone takes.
How did that affect
in
you?
Australia, yeah.
Because I know that it affects people very differently.
It definitely did have side effects. It calmed down. I think I started when I was in primary school. Probably, I'll say, year 4 or 5. I remember going to my second primary school, and I remember having to go to the office, and they would give me my medication that I'd have to take, like, throughout the day. And I don't personally remember, but I do remember my mum telling me when I got older that they stopped making me take it because it would, rather than, obviously it would calm me down, but it would kind of completely just get rid of any appetite I had, and it would just make me really flat and kind of robotic. It got rid of any real personality that I had.
Yeah, it makes you like a zombie.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
It affects your mood a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it will almost suppresses too much, I guess. So it's kind of a choice between whether you want your kid bouncing off the walls or whether you want them to not really feel much at all.
Yeah. It's different for everyone, though. I guess,
Yeah.
'cause some cases, it does really help people function.
Jax.
Sometimes people don't like giving their kids Ritalin and stuff because of the side effects, because they don't like it how it affects them.
Yeah, that was the case with my
100%.
parents. They didn't like how it kind of suppressed how I was fun and active and silly. So I guess they just made the decision that I wasn't going to stick on it.
Yeah.
I was gonna actually just say,
Kai?
Kai, you said Jax. I heard that throughout the background.
My brother has severe ADHD, and up until he was medicated, which was, I think, last year, he was a year behind. No, it wasn't last. I can't remember when he got medicated, but it's ever since he's been medicated, his attention in class has been a lot better. I would not be surprised if everyone in the entire school who my brother was, because he's got a reputation. But Ritalin...
School is so hard for people with ADHD.
How old's your brother?
He is 9 and 10 in November.
9. He's got a reputation, man. That's
When was he diagnosed?
Well, we thought he had autism. We thought he was on the autism spectrum, more in the middle there on the spectrum, but we got him diagnosed. When we got him diagnosed, my parents ended up getting a few tests done, blah, blah, blah. Didn't have autism, but had tendencies, but was definitely more ADHD than anything. Another thing, we have to medicate him with Catapress, which is, I don't exactly know what it does, but all I know is it knocks him the out. If we don't give it to him at 6:30 at night, he won't go to bed. So, yeah, he has, and if he doesn't take his Ritalin as well, you can definitely tell when he hasn't taken his Ritalin, because he just doesn't stop. He just doesn't stop.
How was school for you, Jared? At a young age, when you were diagnosed at 7, did you struggle with school?
I've always had it pretty rough at school, and I guess I was that young that I probably didn't understand why for most of it, but I dealt with bullying pretty much as long as I can remember, from like year maybe 1 up till about year 10 or 11.
Because they saw like different. Like
Yeah,
that you were different.
that's all I can.
I don't understand that.
That's all I can place it
It's
to.
uneducated.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they're kids.
I was the same. Like, I didn't know what it was, so I couldn't defend myself because I didn't know enough about it to understand what was wrong. Well, I shouldn't say wrong. What was different about me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize, I would say, until after school when I got a grasp on mental health and autism and the spectrum and stuff. I didn't really understand what it was about me that set me kind of aside from the rest of the people. I suppose a lot of people that I hung out with, or like the reason for a lot of the bullying was probably because I was too much. There was just too much of me, and I would say a lot of things that like I wouldn't think about before saying. A lot of things just pop out. You blurt out stupid things that if you thought about it, you probably wouldn't say. Because you could offend people, or just.
Yeah. How is your thought process? Talk about your thought process.
In like nowadays or back then?
Back then, what was your thought process back then?
Thought process back then, and it probably still is to get everyone to like me. I've always been the kind of person who I'm a people pleaser. I want everyone to like me. It's a bit selfish.
I think that's a lot of people. That's me as well. I don't like people
pleasers,
liking
right?
Me.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a basic human need to want to fit in, and definitely for sure. But I feel like you use your ADHD to like try and make friends and try to say funny things, like think like, oh, I should probably do a joke.
Yeah,
now.
I was definitely the clown in pretty much every scenario. I'm always the one who says something stupid. I'm the one who tries to make people laugh. And I wouldn't say I used the ADHD because I didn't really know what it was. Like the main bullying that I remember was year 8 through to like year 10. And I'd had a friend group and they basically turned around and stabbed me in the back. I didn't know what that was until later. But I definitely tried to use whatever went on in my head to be the comedian of the group.
Yeah. So instead of like trying to, say if you're having a conversation, did you find it hard to concentrate on the conversation? Or could you get through conversations? Or were you trying to think about something funny to say so they'd like you?
I guess it depends. Conversations kind of fall in the same category as just general things. Like when Tom said earlier that we had a quick chat yesterday about like various things that we struggle to focus on, like be it reading or something. If it's not something that I'm actively wanting to do, I can really struggle to stay attentive. And so if there's like a conversation, like for example, if a parent is giving you a lecture about something that you did, which no one likes, but in my like instance, I would just phase out and just not want to be a part of that conversation. I wouldn't have much to do with it.
Literally have random thoughts pop in your head.
Anything else would
anything
come into
to
my
get
head.
you away from it, right?
I think I'd rather be doing this. I'd rather be doing that.
So many different things going in your head.
Yeah, but I don't know. If I'm chatting to a girl I like, obviously I'm going to be very, attentive to that conversation.
I just want to add
it depends on circumstance.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what I was about to say. Like, it definitely depends on circumstance, but I find it crazy to think that when you were saying like, you would rather be doing anything else. It's nuts how even in important situations, it's really hard to tell your brain. Like, for instance, this happened yesterday. Jess and I were having like a nice chat. Like, it wasn't like super serious, but it was kind of like, about the past and stuff like that. And I went from talking to her to watching the 1968 Age of Conan movie on the TV, and my complete attention disappeared from talking to Jess, and I just started watching the TV. And it was because something on the TV took my gaze, it took my grip, and Jess was still talking, and I didn't hear a single word that came out of her mouth from the second that my attention.
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of like being male.
True. That's just a male. That's just one of our features.
Yeah.
It's pretty
like I do that a lot of the time. Yeah. I know Hayden would do that and piss off as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
When we lose attention to the conversation.
Yeah, I think if it happens like that, happens like 20 times a day, then maybe you have a problem.
Yeah, that's
like consistently happens, and not just once every now and then, but like consistently happens all throughout the day.
Yeah.
that's when you've got to see. What's your thoughts on medication, Jared?
It depends on the context that it's given in. Like, I've got depression, and I take antidepressants, and I am more than all for that kind of, like, self-medication. If you're being forced to take medication to suppress who you are, like if my parents had basically forced Ritalin upon me and had kept forcing it upon me, even though, like, once I'd learned what it was doing to me, that's when it can get a bit on the wrong side, I think. But if you can make your own decision and you know that it's helping you cope or act a certain way, then I think it's perfectly fine. Like, you should never be ashamed to have to medicate to help yourself. I think it's,
100%.
Science has come a long way. It's got to the point where, in terms of antidepressants, it helps release serotonin, which obviously my brain doesn't do well enough, and it gets me through the days. Like, I don't know how well I'd be going without it, so I'm 100%, it's a good thing.
100%. Medication can help. Obviously, it's not your do-all and end-all, and every situation's different. But yeah, no, it's a good thing to say. I think medication's there to help you.
It's not a weakness. Like, a lot of people think, oh, you have to take meds, like,
you can't deal with that yourself in your head.
Yeah, it's a weird stigma around medication, isn't it?
Yeah,
and people label themselves from, like, the medication and they see themselves like having an illness, but we need to stop looking at it as an illness and a deficiency and more of a.
Oh, we can't control how our brains work.
For instance, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So it's a weird thing. Sorry,
you're all good.
I just wanted to put in that I was watching these interviews yesterday. It's a weird thing that we diagnose and link ADHD with mental health.
Yeah, like
due to it's actually your thought pattern, right?
The thought process.
So it's never going to change. Your ADHD is not going to go away. It puts it in that. I don't know whether we should change the stigma around mental health or, like, I don't know.
It kind of ticks two boxes. It I don't know if you knew, but anxiety kind of is usually a 2-for-1 package with just about anything you get diagnosed with, apparently.
Yeah.
And ADHD is a big one. Anxiety is pretty much alongside it. I got diagnosed with that at the same time. And anxiety is a mental health issue, whereas ADHD is more an autism diagnosis. So it kind of ticks both boxes in a way. But any stigma in that regard, like, stigmas are definitely pretty unhelpful for everyone.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time they're pretty negative.
There's no help to it.
About that. Yeah, we spoke about it in the past on this podcast about that. So if you haven't watched that episode, go watch us talking about mental health stigma.
Hey, so just quickly, I had a question for Kai, actually. Your younger brother has severe ADHD. What's it been like for you living and being raised with a sibling that has severe ADHD?
Well, this is where it gets really difficult because the gap between there's 3 siblings, so there's me, my sister who's 20, I'm 22, and my brother's 9, turning 10 in November. And at the moment, because of lockdown and all of our situations, we're all living in the same household at the moment, and the dynamic is really hard for Jax because we're all adults, and we're telling him all these things he can and can't do, but because he's in lockdown, so he has to find his own stimulation, and when you've got no one else to play with because we've all got our own things to do, it can be very difficult, and you kind of sympathize and empathize for him because he just gets so bored. Like he always wants to play Match It. I introduced him to Match It, like with Bob the Builder and stuff, and he loves that. He wants to play Monopoly at the moment. He loves his PlayStation 4. He's always...
Yeah, I read a study that that kids with ADHD in COVID-19, this study came out in 2020, saying that the behaviour has gotten up to 60% worse.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't doubt that.
So they've had more behaviour disturbed.
Yeah, well,
It's just restlessness, I think.
Yeah.
Restlessness is a big thing.
It's kind of hard to weigh yourself out, right, when you're not able to go anywhere. Like,
and with another thing is because And I don't know if this is definitely ADHD, but he's also got some other issues with personal space and awareness. So he does struggle to make friends, because he is so, I wouldn't say controlling, but if a thing's not his way, he gets very upset quickly, like agitated. Sorry, not upset, agitated quickly, and that's where it becomes really difficult because he doesn't get any friends, and the friends that he is with, like, they're very. A lot of the kids are aggressive because he loves fighting. Like, he just loves fighting. Like, loves guns, you name it, he loves it. Like, he walks around with, he's got a bunch of Nerf guns. He plays Red Dead Redemption, which in itself is an issue, but anyway. He runs around with a gun and, like, I'll show you how to disarm. You can disarm me. I'm like, buddy, no, me and Dad are like, no one's, disarming isn't a thing, buddy. If you're just going to get shot. Guns these days are way too good.
He just goes.
Just stand there for a second, mate.
Hair triggers are a thing.
He's prepared. He's prepared for the purge.
He's a lot of effort. A lot of focus needs to be on someone who can't focus.
Yeah, and yeah, it's real. It's really, really, really difficult when there's 4 adults in the house and none of them can provide him that constant attention, like at school or whatever.
Yeah, because everyone's working from home, and it makes it hard.
Yeah.
I really feel for people with ADHD kids at home at lockdown, because they would, engaging an online class would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I think I saw something the other day, like, with, there was something to do with, like, a kid or a school to do with, like, autism. Like, the majority of the students were, like, had, like, you know, deal with autism, and they're all really young, like, they're in primary school, and of course they had to shut down the school due to COVID, and the majority of the students that are now at home, kind of like you said, Dos, like, their tendencies and disturbances and stuff are just, like, on the rise, going crazy, because they're going stir crazy in their house by themselves, and as you said, their parents just can't keep up. Like, their parents can't do the same thing as school can and other kids can and stuff.
Another thing that I just want to add as well that's quite funny, when you're raising a child, and this isn't from my opinion, this is from my dad said before he had Jax, he'd always, like, question certain parents, not when I say certain parents that had children that were like very intense, very active all the time. Whether or not they had ADHD is a different story, but kids that were always had to be stimulated. And I'd have to make sure that he's, like, if I'm saying this right, but he essentially said, like, why don't you just like discipline them and that you can get rid of it? But now, having had Jax, he's aware that you just can't discipline it. Like, it's just there.
Sometimes people with, like, autism, and I don't know about ADHD, but when you discipline, they don't understand the punishment and reward.
Because their brains, people have
different,
people have different brain wiring, dude.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's always strengths and weaknesses to everyone's thought pattern. So I guarantee you, Jared is really quick at solving problems and working out how to say nailed it in conversation.
Oh God,
That's him. When we were trapped.
Well, that's my entire personality. I've just been figured out. So,
Look, when we were trapped in that escape room, Jared got us out of there quick, snap.
No, but what I mean by that is, like, in conversation, or if I'm trying to explain something to Jared, he would understand it quite quickly.
Most of the time, before, if something's said in a conversation, my brain is automatically thinking of the best response that I could say. And usually when that comes to best response, there's about 8 responses in there.
Yeah.
And then it's just trying to read everyone and then figure out
You have like a little game show in your head.
Literally, I've got multiple choice, A through to
You
Z.
got a little
pretty
Eddie
much.
in your head, mate. Fucking.
Literally. It's pretty exhausting, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. But compared to, like, someone else's, like, my mind, I've got, like, maybe
Simple
2.
mind.
Yeah, one of which is yeah, and the other one
Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Actually, I had a question to kind of roll back a little bit to what everyone was saying in regards to or Kai was saying in regards to his dad and his disciplining Jax and whatever, and it like not working or being a thing.
No, not disciplining Jax. He didn't understand.
Other people not disciplining their children, but
and he was like
it doesn't-
yeah. And now he
I kinda
sympathizes and
wanted to
empathizes.
kind of wanted to throw that off to Jared and be like, how did your parents kind of handle it, if you remember much at all?
I'm really lucky with the family that I was brought up with. Both my parents are pretty amazing people. And my mum had like post-pregnancy depression and stuff, so she definitely had an awareness in terms of mental health and stuff. So she probably had more capability in terms of that kind of thing than my dad, but neither of them tried to hide the way I was or anything. I think anything they did was more for my benefit. That being said, I did have somewhat violent tendencies as a kid. Not that I would fight other people, but I was definitely I used to go under my house and crush cars with rocks and stuff, and slash up plants.
It's definitely a symptom of ADHD is that you become more aggressive.
Yeah, and obviously they're not going to be too happy about me destroying the plants that they've grown for the past 10 years. They'd be like, okay, Jared, wrap it up. But aside from that, my parents kind of, I'd say they handled it like just pros, to be honest. They, I never felt shunned or anything in my own family. They all loved me the same way that they loved my sister. So I was pretty lucky in that regard.
Yeah, that's important too. Imagine if you had ADHD and not had that support system, outcast you'd feel.
Definitely, having the trouble outside of home and at home, I wouldn't have known who I was supposed to be at all.
Definitely, you're lucky that you have such a good support system with your parents.
He's lucky, but he's also that's how it should be, regardless.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, a lot of parents don't get. They've got an ideology of how their kids should be when they're born, and if that's not how it is, they get
a lot of people
upset.
with ADHD don't have that support network.
Yeah, 100%.
I just wanted to ask another question. Actually, let me switcheroo. I just wanted to talk about. Did you know that ADHD is on the rise? Being diagnosed.
What?
Is that how recent?
Globally.
More people have ADHD, or what are you on about?
More people are being diagnosed with ADHD, yeah.
Is that within the past couple of years, COVID coming in, or a little while?
Last 5 years.
Maybe is it getting normalized to get your kid diagnosed or something? Is that a thing?
Well, what do you think that would increase the ADHD?
COVID would be the main thing. I would think restlessness and people being stuck at home, and then thinking, I don't know, maybe it just increases mental instability and stuff.
Maybe they're stuck at home, wow, this kid can't sit still. Maybe go get him tested.
Stuck with him for 24 hours a day. Let's figure out what's.
I do think screens are a problem.
Yeah.
I was going to say technology.
Screens.
I was going to say technology.
Screens, however, there was a study done on kids. So screens, in particular, short videos. So if your kid's watching YouTube 30-minute episodes of Sesame Street, they are less likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than kids that are on TikTok swiping and doing short 3-minute videos because you're changing your your concentration that quickly.
Something new every few seconds.
Your brain builds pathways, adapt to that, and that changes your.
So TikTok gives you ADHD.
Definitely could.
Another reason to not use TikTok.
I'd actually have TikTok.
No, I mean, okay.
ADHD immaturity.
I personally don't have TikTok, but I do have Instagram, and Instagram's riddled with TikTok.
It's filled with it.
I don't have TikTok. I just watch TikToks on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. That's Hayden. That's fucking Hayden. That's what I was about to say. I don't have TikTok, but I watch Instagram Reels.
Just download it. Just download it.
No, I'm not gonna fucking stoop that low, bro.
We're a self-help
Yeah,
podcast.
self-help, yeah.
We didn't roast anyone, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
true.
helping you, mate.
Yeah.
We're helping you.
I found a cool website, and I just started taking some notes down while you guys were chatting just then. But
Oh, so you didn't do notes before the...
no, I, of course.
Just-
Yeah, so no, because the
imagine
thing is,
doing
it's a lot
that.
easier for me to do it on the fly because I have
So
stuff.
Tom not focusing while we were talking. Okay,
I have
so
stuff. I always have tabs open, but I never look at them until we're mid podcast. I don't know what it is. So these are just 4 like dot points, and like you can answer any or all of them if you want. But do trouble with deadlines? Do you suffer with trouble with deadlines at all? Like having to meet.
is this to me or
Yeah,
is this
to
general?
you personally, but I mean, I guess I could ask.
Is there
No,
12
no,
and then 6 questions?
It just says like how ADHD may be affecting your life, and like it's just kind of like
yeah.
these general concepts.
We don't diagnose on this show.
Yeah, no, this is
What do you mean, bro? We've got Dr. Ethan here.
Yeah, like-
Dr. Ethan.
You have ADHD.
You have ADHD.
I looked it up on
Everybody gets
WikiHow and
ADHD.
WebMD, dude.
Yeah,
You've got
WebMD,
ADHD.
Yeah. So Jared, do you reckon you struggle with deadlines or like
Yes,
meeting deadlines?
big yes. When I've always, for as long as I can remember, struggled, especially with
Hey.
school stuff.
How do you, like, in doing stuff in a certain amount of time? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
by
I
a
guess,
certain
like,
point, or-
If I'm given, like, school stuff, for example, if I was given an assignment and it's due in 2 weeks, a month, I will not touch that. I won't look at that until, like, the last, like,
it's like
3 or 2
procrastinating
days.
to the extreme.
Yeah, hardcore.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell whether that's just me or whether it's like a symptom of ADHD. But I've always been the kind of person to struggle with doing things that I don't want to do.
Yeah, the way that this thing described it as well was just quite similar to what you said. It said, ADHD can make you forgetful and distracted, and you're most likely to have trouble with time management because your problems with focus.
Do you find that you forget a lot?
Yeah, I would say with a lot of things, like I remember a lot of various just random things, which usually aren't very useful, but sometimes they come up. But I do forget a lot of, like with a lot of jobs and stuff, I can take a little bit longer to actually learn things. I second guess myself a lot, and I like to ask a lot of questions because I don't want to get things wrong. So I'm definitely kind of like slow accelerating at higher top speed. You know?
Do you know why that is? It actually is because of your ADHD.
Interesting.
Because it's not your memory that the problem is. It's literally your attention span to whatever you're trying to learn.
It's
It fades
So
out
you're-
halfway through, so I don't actually
Yeah.
complete learning it.
Well, if you're like literally, if you open the fridge and like your mind goes somewhere else, you just walk away
you just go, oh,
and be like,
why? Yeah, like why was I in the fridge again?
And that's-
That's
And that's
that's
why-
God cancelling my action. Oh.
and that's why like a lot of people with ADHD feel stupid. It's quite common for them to feel I don't know why they attach like forgetfulness to intelligence.
I think it's just quite different. Like it just, if you're not performing as well as other people in every way, you automatically undermine yourself.
Yeah,
It's
compare yourself a lot. It's a lot of humans focus on the negatives over the positives of their thought processes.
Definitely.
And yeah,
with regards to why this is just my assessment of why they would link memory loss to, or forgetfulness, which is memory loss, to being stupid. Is memory is not a direct indicator of how smart you are, but it is definitely an indicator. So that's where I would draw it, because you're not able to.
but their memory's actually fine, bro. It's just
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm getting at. Memory, like as you said, it's attention span, but it comes off as memory loss because you get to that task and you're like, oh, but anyway, yeah.
So little does anyone know. Actually, I guess no one that's watching the podcast. Jared and I used to work together, so I was in the boss position, but I was never I never held myself above Jared in that regard. But have you had any, other than with me, I guess, problems with employment or anything like that? Like in between, working with me and kind of after and so on and so forth. Has your ADHD really been problem at all in regards to maybe jobs or, causing problems or anything like that?
I actually think it's, at this age now, it kind of benefits me. And I was going to say, I was thinking while you were saying that, hyperactivity isn't, it can be a negative, but it can also be a kind of a huge positive in certain situations. Like, if I am in a situation where I know my surroundings, being hyperactive means that I can have a grip on pretty much everything that's happening all at once, which it can be really draining, but at the same time it can make it things really efficient. Like, I'm always thinking of the quickest and best way to do something. And I guess my personality, I'm really good at interviews when it comes to getting jobs. So any of the jobs that I have, most of the ones where I face-to-face will talk to a manager, hand in a resume, I do pretty well in, because I get to see what I'm like, how I hold myself. And most of that is because of experience that I've had. I've worked in hospitality for a long time.
You reckon it gives you a confidence? You feel like you have this extra boost of confidence that other people may not have because of it?
So I think acknowledging what you like, who you are, is a huge thing, and accepting that. And I still struggle with that hardcore. I don't know if I will ever be at the point where I can completely love myself for the way that I am. But I do know that both the ADHD and depression stuff, they both give me a certain leg up on a few different things. Because it just gives me, I guess, extra understanding of people and how things work, which can, in a weird way, it helps me read people better. So if I'm talking to a manager and I can see them face to face, I can then kind of think, okay, this is what this person's going to go for. So this is how I act, blah, blah, blah. And then hopefully things go well. And confidence boost wise, if I've been successful in the past, then hopefully, fingers crossed, that kind of high from being successful sticks around.
I just wanted to add, when you were saying, pretty much everything you said is exactly how my brain works. In the
Tom's got ADHD.
just to the interviews, to the people skills, to the confidence, to the underlying problems and stuff that you may deal with, but it's not they're always going to be prevalent in your life. I was going to say, I always found that when I went for an interview at a bank, and never worked in a bank in my entire life, never had any skills to work in a bank into my entire life, but I think about I procrastinated up until
you walked in like the fucking Monopoly man.
Literally, dude.
The guy off the Pringles can.
For 4 hours before I got into the interview, I of course procrastinated the whole time. Didn't research, didn't do anything. I looked at the bank and went, "All right, it's a big bank. What am I gonna do here? I don't know. What's my job? I'm going to work in cyber. Cool. That's it. That's all I really know when I'm going in." I sat on my phone while I was waiting to be interviewed, and I'm like, what are some job prospects to do with, what are some job careers? What are some leading careers you can go into, working in a bank? And majority of them, I went, oh, that's shit. And then I eventually got to the point where I found one. Went into the interview, crushed the interview. Mid-interview, I was telling her, how I would really like to move into that career and this, go from here to there. And I think I got a call back the next day, and she was like, "Oh, you were by far, the best interviewer we had. We really, really want you on the position, blah, blah, blah. The fact that you know where you want to go in your career and stuff." And I'm like, oh, shit, well, maybe if to me, I was like, oh, I looked that up less than an hour before I even started the interview. But, from their perspective, it was this man knows what he wants. This man knows what he's doing. The hyperactivity and the infinite thoughts going through my mind just before the interview started, I was like, damn, I can use this to my advantage and, strive for something a little bit better and, maybe use that, the best response or the best interview mechanics I could possibly do. And, yeah, I think it's nuts.
So, Tom actually has ADHD, guys. Confirmed.
Hey, that's fine.
There's 100%. I would love to go and get tested, to be honest. I think that would be a cool little extra thing to add to my resume. I have ADHD.
I do think, based on that, a lot of, still talking about jobs, I guess, a lot of the things that people look for when it comes to employment is someone with personality. And having ADHD, like as we said earlier, there's a lot of personality that, like when you're young, you need to keep occupied. Like if you're a parent, you have to give that kid so much attention. But when you get older with ADHD and you kind of become that bit more independent, you put that personality towards other things. Whether it, like a lot of the time, just the work, people, any of that kind of thing. So when you go for employment, it's in a way an advantage because you've got most of the time more personality, and that definitely shows in an interview, and people look for that. So it's definitely not a liability in that regard. So, if you've got ADHD, don't think you can't get a job because it can help in a lot of ways.
While giving advice to people with ADHD, what would be one... If someone was listening right now with ADHD, what would you tell them if they were just teenagers? What advice could you give them?
I think probably try to understand what it is that makes you different from people, and don't treat it as a weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just literally a different DNA. Like you're just different. Like
just different thought process.
Yeah,
and like we said before, like different thought processes have strengths and weaknesses. Like we were talking about, like job interviews and personality.
With sports and stuff, like you can be super good if you're doing something you enjoy doing. You pay that much attention to it. You've got, I feel like, in a gaming sense, you've got tasks that you can do, like leveled up more than other things. It's just like the attention to certain tasks. So if you kind of put everything to something that you want to do, whereas gaming for us, or I used to play soccer, I could put everything I had towards that, so you can strive a little bit further in that regard.
Did you find it helping having multiple things juggling at the same time? So you had different things focusing on, not just one thing solely? Did you have multiple things going? Did you find that easier to...
It depended on what it was. Like, when it came to soccer, I didn't like soccer practice, but I loved playing the games on Saturday. And that's back to, like, just not... I didn't want to do things that I didn't want to do, I guess. But I think if there was one thing that I could focus on, it did help. So games, because it would take all of my attention to focus on what I was doing. But as good as it can be to multitask, I found it was probably better to try and find one thing that I could put all my attention towards.
And was games the thing that helped you focus?
Yeah.
Was there anything else you could take with you in public and like just use that to focus on conversations or anything like that?
Public was... I've never been the kind of person to, I guess, stand out in public. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I try and, if I don't have to stick my neck out, I won't. But I would definitely always take some sort of device. I mean, the Nintendo DS back in the day, take that out in public, and if I felt uncomfortable in any situation, I'd just go and play some DS or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like a fallback kind of thing.
It's like a soothing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, just something to go back to that I was...
Regain your focus,
Yeah, that I was used to and I knew.
Just another thing that I just remembered. There is a massive difference between ADHD in men and women. Really big. So that's another thing as well. We're all men. We're all men.
Do you know it's most likely diagnosed in guys?
Yeah, but like shows itself extremely differently. In women and men.
What are the signs and symptoms of in a female?
I've only talked to a few people. I just know that it is very different.
He's just putting a disclaimer.
Go do your research.
Oh, f*** you. We're all men, and I forgot that we've got to include women, and it is very different. I know that for a fact.
Women. Thank you guys for listening if you're a women.
Hey, women.
Women's are cool.
What are symptoms of women with ADHD?
So, of course, these are super generalized, and I guess, it varies from person to person, but there's 19, so I'm not going to read all of them, but there are a fair few on this.
Just ramble them. Go.
Feeling of self-worth, sensitivity to criticism, poor sense of time, being emotionally charged and easily upset, starting projects but unable to finish them, taking on too much, difficulty remembering names, saying things without thinking, appearing self-absorbed, poor math or writing skills, seems to not want to hear what others are saying, engaging in unhealthy behaviors, problems with word retrieval, poor handwriting, difficulty with boring and repetitive tasks, spending too much time ruminating.
I'm assuming
That's the
this
whole
is
19.
just, like girls.
Yeah, this is girls. This is specifically girls.
I mean, like not women, girls. Like,
oh no, this is targeted at women. It does say women, but I don't know if that generalizes towards a younger women.
Younger audience.
When they're difficulty making decisions.
Jared, do you have any you probably have some symptoms in there, surely.
Yeah, definitely. There'll be some crossovers.
I said Ken. I never said that they're completely different. I said that it does show itself
They just
differently.
affect
Atypical. Sometimes they have
differently.
atypical presentations of ADHD.
Yeah.
Well, my best mate's sister, who's pretty much the same age as me, has ADHD. So and I kind of grew up with him and also her, so I got to kind of see what it was like firsthand to see someone else with it, and it's definitely different in some ways. Like disorganization and stuff is probably a bit more prevalent in women than it is men. We're more physically crazy, whereas women are probably more like the kind of organization and mentally, things like being
like
kind
we're
of
more aggressive.
Yeah,
So,
you know,
maybe.
men are a bit more physical and
More
Testosterone, baby. Testosterone.
Woo.
Um.
We've got balls.
So.
Does-
Oh yeah. What did you say, Dos?
I just have one more question out of my little notebook of Jared. I was just wondering if is there any environments that make your ADHD symptoms worse or better?
Better would be personally for me at home in my room. Has always been my thing. In a place where I choose and I feel comfortable and safe. And a worse wise was like test environments at school. I always struggled with. Obviously, putting someone in a big room in front of a sheet of paper with a bunch of questions that I don't really want to do
Like,
is going to be
constriction wouldn't be nice.
Yeah. Getting put in a place where you don't want to be is definitely not easy. It doesn't really matter where it is if it's kind of you're just getting forced to go
Definitely
anywhere.
would not be able to focus if you like.
If
you
he
don't want to
like, it's like he said earlier. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. But having a test
mind's gonna
situation, they force you to do it.
And that's not to say that if you have kids that have ADHD, don't spoil them and give them everything they want. Like that's not. It's a fine line, but you do need to understand that if there's going to be if you are a parent with a kid with ADHD or that you might suspect of having ADHD, they might not just fall in line with everything that the other kids want to do. Because they have a different feeling about things because they struggle to focus on things they don't want to do. And in saying that, just the actual answer to the other question, car trips, they were bad. Like, I struggled with car trips. I would annoy the shit out of my sister to the point where my parents say, I bet you $10 you can't sit still for like an hour. Well, I couldn't do it. It was like the classic. We're pulling over. You're getting out. You're walking home. The classic threats.
Yeah, I love those.
Just to get me to sit down because I could not stop.
Still, yeah, definitely. If it's a long car trip as well, especially in Australia where we have such a large area of space to cover.
Yeah, just long road trips. Even just going to Sydney, 2.5 hours, just being strapped into one spot. Just I couldn't do it.
I guess you use your Nintendo. You bring your stuff to stimulate your mind, so you're not just sitting there literally
Fidget
looking out the
spinners.
window.
Yeah, that's probably
Fidget
the big
spinners.
point. I probably went shopping, said, "How do I entertain my child?" Because they are driving me up the wall. So they got me a Nintendo DS.
I feel that for instance, myself, and I know you do it too, Jared. Clicking pens, tapping, flipping stuff, anything that can keep your brain like.
That's why I
stimulated.
became a drummer.
Yeah,
so I
like-
can smack things.
I remember, it's annoying from an outside perspective when people are tapping and, doing all those things. But, of course, it does help us, or, in the long run.
We're very rhythmic people. I feel like ADHD is a very rhythmic... I think... I don't know if this is actually a statistical thing, but I feel like people with ADHD would probably have more of a musical tendency. Just because it takes focus and it lets us physically do things.
Yeah.
And physical things are a lot easier to focus on than just sitting and reading and stuff.
There you go. So if you have ADHD, go play instruments.
Or
Play the drums.
Play an instrument
Learn
or play
music,
games.
guitar, drums,
Um,
and video games.
yeah.
Or play Guitar
Just
Hero,
an
which is
outlet.
bad.
Jared, I did have
Do something
one
you
last
enjoy.
question. I was just curious
Yes,
about the effect your ADHD being positive or negative. Any effects it may have had on any of your previous relationships?
Well, I've only really had one actual one, and I wouldn't say it had a direct effect, because I was out of high school when I had my first actual relationship, so I knew kind of how to control it and how to harness it. But when I was younger, the classic high school flings and stuff.
Yeah.
They were, in a way, I kind of treated them just as a thing. Like, it wasn't actually anything. It was just more exciting to have something happening.
It's another thing you can juggle, I guess.
Yeah, but getting older, it's kind of a biased opinion, I guess, because as I said, I kind of knew what it was and how to handle it at this point. But a lot of the time when I tell people that I have ADHD, they say they don't notice it, or whether that be they don't know the signs to look out for, or whether I manage the kind of hyperactivity pretty well. My first girlfriend was pretty much the same. Like, she had no idea that I was that way. The more comfortable that I got, though, obviously, the more impulsive and just fidgety and silly I would get. But that's not necessarily, that's not a bad thing, because as I said, being silly can be fun. Being the kind of clown, saying silly things can keep things fresh at times. So it really depends on the person. If you get a girl or a boy, and they are short-tempered and have a short fuse, it can be real tough. But if you get someone accepting,
Yeah, you need someone who has patience and acceptance.
yeah, and then it can go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. Boys, I think we're going to wrap it up
Yeah,
here.
100%. That was really good.
It's been lovely chatting with you, Jared. Thank you for coming onto the couch.
Thanks for coming,
Thanks for
brother.
having me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Uh,
brother.
Feels good talking to one of the boys on the couch. No
Nice
pressure.
to chill. I hope in the future we get to actually all sit on the couch together. That'll be real cute.
Look, honestly, we will get a couch.
We
Right,
will.
please.
We will get
Please.
one.
I've
I'll
had
get
so
a
many people
custom
message
couch.
me and say, I thought you guys were sitting on the couch talking.
when it's legal
we're-
to actually
we're-
have
we're
to sit
spread over
next to
the
each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, we
New
are
South
very
Wales.
separated in regards to where we live.
I would love to live with all the boys and sit on the couch. Yeah, it's not happening.
Sit on the f***ing
Great.
couch, please.
It will happen one day.
It-
We'll make a video.
it's a
of
metaphorical
us sitting on the
couch.
Maybe not for a few
Recording
years.
it.
Yeah.
Hey, it'll be a video podcast. We'll pop up the
We're all
video
sitting on
and
the
everyone
couch
sit
in
on
our
a couch with a beer.
So thank you guys for listening and joining in and tuning in. We're going to be doing a giveaway soon, so keep an eye out on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and obviously tell everyone that you know about.
Yeah, tell your nan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alan K. Alan K.
We're trying to reach out to the nan audience.
Nans would love it while they do
What,
their
the
gardening,
gilfs?
fix up their flowers.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Alright.
didn't need to say that.
Bye, guys.
Everyone was
We'll
just-
see you next week.
Okay, I'm stopping it.
Bye. Bye.
Catches.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Couch Project. With peace and love, Greg.